I think I'm in on Rye. I think I'm being total prisoner of the moment. I think I'm being, swept away with the positive sentiment. But what a performance! What a like Eamon had a tweet that I saw you about just like an era of like total greed and total lack of perspective and total lack of players losing their real sense of place. Rye is kind of a fitting antidote to some of that, and we'll get into the shots and the golf that was played. But why did you flip? Why did you come around on Rye?
I think a lot of it goes to the backstory, and it's a great backstory. It's an inspiring backstory for any not just silver spoon, well-to-do family kid. This is a kid that that his family didn't have a lot. Working class family who worked his tail off. Obviously, the iron cover story is well documented.
Oh my
God! I don't think we could go into it quickly, but his dad bought him a really expensive set of irons, and they took really immaculate care of them because it was so expensive, such a big outlay for the family. I think it's a combination of the humble upbringing. And then just the work ethic required and everything kind of working against a player that plays the way Aaron Rye plays and what you have to do to get to where Aaron Rye's gotten and then to go out and win. Basically Sunday was all the horses lined up and there were a lot of the fastest horses on the PGA Tour lined up, ready to go. He was playing with Ludwig Aubert, John Rahm's there, Rory's there, Xander's there. Like, you go down the list, everybody's in the mix, Scotty's in the mix, and Aaron Rye goes out and dusts everybody. It wasn't that he just beat everybody. It was the way in which he did it. And I thought, everybody's going to talk about the putt on 17 or the eagle on 9. To me, the one that won me over fully was the shot on 13.
Bunker.
The short par 4, he's in that front bunker. And if you watched all day, everybody just hit chunk and runs out of every lie they had. Just trying to, let's take the risk of going long out of the equation. We're going to hit this chunk and run. And here's Aaron Rye, a guy that's best finish in a majors T19 before this, is leading the major, and he hits the ballsy shot. He flies it up to that little back plateau that the hole was on with spin, hits the shot to hit if you want to hit it close. But you bring in all the risk, and that, to me, that was the moment where I was like, I'm in on this guy. The stones to do that. I mean, then, you go forward and he hits 3-wood off 15. Everybody's puzzled. It's 540 par 4. He's a short hitter and he hits 3-wood. It's like, you know what? He knew he had hit the fairway. And that shot, the second shot into there,
I was going to say,
literally like a trickle from being the iconic shot of the tournament. But I just, you got to respect somebody that goes about their business, goes about their craft, and does it differently, and doesn't come from kind of a traditional golf background to get it. It just a very cool story.
Yeah, there were some incredible shots and an era. I thought it was fitting, like this major that has really flummoxed a lot of people, right? Like unpredictability. We talked about the course seems like a mystery. People not necessarily knowing what we're going to get out of it. The data not necessarily telling the story that everybody wants or understands or can synthesize quite precisely. That you get a guy in an era where, we were supposed to have this bomb and gouge major, right? Or an era where this isn't necessarily supposed to be the way. He just does things differently. He wears the 2 gloves. He has all this stuff. It's just a little differently and is a short hitter in an era. And this wasn't look, it wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a guy that was like 800th in the world. No, he was playing an alternate.
Myrtle Beach last week.
He was playing an alternate event the week before. I mean, but so was Wyndham Clark, right up to.
Is that more of an indictment though on the PGA Tour
signature
system? the fact that Aaron Rai, who I think he came into the week 44 in the world,
He's a good player. He's
was
he's an
playing in an alternate event. Isn't that like, what are we doing here with the signature events? That's the 70 player hitting giggles.
To your boy Tony Finau, we had to give out those kinds of things. No, like a really impressive performance. His lowest round ever in a major, but not like this guy isn't. He kind of came out of nowhere as far as majors go. Hadn't come, but not on the tour elite level. He led the field in birdies. Was awesome on approach. Was obviously a very good putting performance. The bomb at 17 will certainly jack that up a little bit too. I think like there's a notion that some people are going to suggest this was a putting got to putting contest territory with, driving not necessarily being super punished. I think that's a little bogus. He's the first English winner since I believe Jim Barnes in like one of the original PGA. And it just fit. It fit with sort of the theme of unpredictability this week. I thought he's hitting, I think it was 260 at a 5-wood into 9 when a lot of the guys, his peers, are hitting mid irons, maybe even like 6-7 irons.
7 iron
for Rory. He hit a 5-wood 260. That putt was a bonus. The bunker shot on 13, a little bit of like Fitzy at Zurich style, just sending it all the way there and stopping it on a dime. I'm not saying it was the same green or the same shot precisely, but total ballsy, as you suggested. The guiding it into 16 and then the bomb at 17. He had like no chance to win at like 7 or 8. I felt like the percentages are doing the probability model when it feels like 20 guys have a chance to win. It seems a little screwy. You're just going based on, well, we know John Rahm is this and Rory's this and Ludwig's this, and it just sort of probably denigrates a little bit of Rai's odds at that point.
Early in the front 9, I was not rooting for him. I was happy when there were some misses there but then as the story unfolded, that's where I got on board with him. I got on board with him on 13. I mean, there's some sneaky little things like that show how unfazed by the moment. You're so used to seeing people in majors like kind of curl back. The approach shot on 11 will get lost. That was nails. The up and down on 10 was incredible. Like from that right side, short-sided, it was short grass, which made skill be, kind of rewarded a little bit more there than most of the places around the greens. But
man, he barely got that to just sit up right there. Like kind of just trickled it on,
It was awesome. And then I love the broadcast after he hit it long. That shot he hit on 12 was so close to being great. He hit that low flighted one into 12 and it just ran out more than I think he expected it to, but it runs over the green. And that's a classic. I'm uncomfortable with where I am leading this tournament. I'm going to just pull putter and eliminate like a bad situation from happening. And you heard the telecast, Trevor's like, I can't believe he's not hitting putter here. And he hits the chip. It wasn't a great chip, but just the fact that he was willing to hit the chip, like all of these things, that final 10 holes, nobody's ever going to say Aaron Rai is the best player. He's never going to be the best player in the world. But at that moment, on the back 9 at Aronimink, he was the most confident player on the golf course. And he believed he was going to win that tournament. And his actions, the shots he hit were just full of confidence. And I think that is amazing. Amazing win. And is it going to be, when we look at it 5 years down the line, the most, memorable, or the one that you're like, wow, Aaron Rai, this is what I got to tell my kids about. But one of the most sensational wins that we'll have seen.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some of the clunker of the majors we've had since we started this podcast. There haven't been many. There haven't been many like this either. There haven't been many clunkers. There haven't been many Rye guys jumping into the mix. Harman at Liverpool Hoylake was maybe one that gets sort of popped occasionally. I I think the way it finished and the way the week went, I will remember this as a very high quality major championship. I saw one note from Luke Curdenine, a great writer at Golf Digest, noted that he has like a crazy stance for driver. He hits like so far back in his stance and then uses a driver with like, launches it much lower with it's crazy spinny, like super spinny driver. Obviously that's going to hurt him a little bit on overall distance, but like the notion that maybe with these like effectively smaller sloped fairways that this was like a net plus maybe occasionally. He was among the most accurate, certainly still one of the most shorter drivers this week, but did that help him? He missed still a fair amount of it, but he was netted out by the end of the Sunday as one of the more accurate drivers. And you know what, like just seeing something a little different all week was kind of the notion. Like that was sort of the narrative of the week. Like this just very different thing. It's a harder to read. It's a harder to process major. It was enjoyable to take in. It was enjoyable to watch with your own two eyes. Maybe if all the numbers weren't telling you exactly like this is how majors are supposed to go anymore. Like it was just a narrative all the way through. And then to get sort of a guy that does it a little differently, all the way down to like most pros are going to eschew spin, right? They're not all hitting like the farthest possible tuned up thing, but they're going to eschew the levels of spin but this is how he does it, how he wants to do it. He's made him a top 50 player in the world, and now it's made him a major championship. So I thought it fit nicely with the narrative of the week.
I think it's also fitting, just like if you look at his life, he kind of fell in love with golf at a young age and then turned pro at 17, grinded on these mini tours. I didn't, it was kind of like reading as much as I could on the back nine about him. But one of the things I didn't realize was his wife is a European women's tour pro.
Yeah.
And like, you just think about like, this guy is so dedicated. And I saw you tweeted the Xander quote. I'm sure you have it handy, but like,
yep.
This individual is like, I could only imagine that him and his wife, they get done with their golf and all they do is talk about golf. And, then Xander comes out and is like, I don't say this about many people, but he works harder than me.
I thought it was funny. Everybody was sharing the clip of his wife hitting it stiff at the par 3 contest in Augusta, but like no one was sharing that she was like a tour pro and not like a CPA. Or it was like, well, that swing looks pretty smooth, but she's also a tour pro. That would make sense. That came like 20 minutes later after they shared it. Yeah, to your point. Look, like there was the golf, there was the way he does it, there's the backstory. Then there was like the testimony from everyone, all his peers. Rory to Amanda afterwards was like, there's not a person on property who's going to be, or whatever, could say a bad thing about Aaron Rai. Xander said he's such a good dude. Rarely do you see people work really hard. I mean, that's not fair. Rarely do you see people work way harder than you, is what I'm trying to say. I feel I've played a pretty good amount of time, and Aaron is always there, always in the gym, always on the range. At the Scottish, I'm staying on site. And I thought it was fun for Austin and I to go out and putt at night. Aaron is finishing up his little putting session at 9 p.m. and going to the gym then at 9:45. This was 3 years ago. I think that's what it's about to be a major champion. You put in the work when nobody's looking. Super pumped for him and his team. And like Xander can probably speak to that as well as anyone, right? Like a guy who wasn't like, he was a very strong college player, but had to go through the KFT and to be a top 5 player in the world. Right. And gain his speed and do all the things to make him an elite pro.
You think about this, not a player with that is the work ethic, right?
Yeah.
And we'll never know the full extent of it. It's impossible. And it's impossible to compare. Like one of the worst announcerisms is this guy works harder than anybody else. But like, if you look at his career, like all the way back, what I loved is Lee Westwood played a big part in his career. Did you see that?
No. Westy's on Twitter poking at writers.
Golf Digest. The Golf Digest boys are getting.
What did Westy do for him?
Westy apparently can read articles, just not a book.
I actually don't think he clicked through. I think he read the tweet. He read the promo, and there's no chance he read the article. Go ahead.
So You know how the story of him making 250 10-footers in a row as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
It was right after he got the Lee Westwood, some Lee Westwood training aid, putting aid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so not Westy himself, but something he slapped his name on, maybe. That you might totally vouch for. I don't know.
But anyways, you look at the just, you know, he turned pro, and he said he wasn't ready to turn pro at 17. But he played on the PGA Euro Pro Tour from 2012 to 2016. Then he was on the Challenge Tour for a couple years, European Tour for a couple years, then like the bottom of the PGA Tour, like just legitimately worked his way all the way up. And then, you know, he didn't have a standout major performance, but the thing about it is, like, he played the weekend. I think he had made 7 straight major cuts coming into this one. So the guy had played and like been in major championship golf like consistently for the last 2 years, where he's not like going and bombing out and being completely outclassed by golf courses. You know, he has clear deficiencies, you know, and I think, like, I'm sure we'll get to the course, but I think the golf course absolutely had a huge part in Aaron Rai winning, as you would expect. But the golf course was 7,100 yards all weekend. It was like 7,100 and change on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. That's got to be one of the shortest major championship courses in recent memory. You know, it's 74 on the official card, but playing 71 the last 2 days, like, that allowed a lot of people to be in this with the way the setup was, with the thick rough, the, you know, 40-yard wide fairways that were, you know, they played narrower in spots, but relatively wide fairways and thick rough on that punished misses, and short allowed Aaron Rai to be a factor. And when distance, listen, like, when distance is not a prerequisite skill needed, Aaron Rai is one of the best players in the world. And this week, it was the perfect matchup where he played great on a setup that didn't take him out of it because of length.